If you think, prior to Galileo's discovering of the moons of Jupiter, how many objects are known to be in the heavens? The number is 7. There's the Sun, there's Mercury, there's Venus, there's Earth, there's the Earth's moon, there's Mars, and there is Jupiter. That's 7. And then you think about the number 7, but you don't think of it in modern scientific context. You think of the number 7 in a theological context. 7 is a theologically significant number. Now, if you think about it, the number of days of creation in the story of Genesis is 7. The number of days of the week correspondingly is 7. How many deadly sins are there? There are 7. Here's my favorite. If you look at God's greatest creation, man, and you count the number of orifices in the human head, 7. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and a mouth. It adds up to 7. So clearly, God works in 7. And so on something that's an important to creation as the solar system, it makes theological sense and should be a matter of theological necessity that, of course, there are 7 objects in the solar system. So we can dismiss Galileo's claim that there are more than 7 objects in the solar system. But notice what's going on here is that we have a collision of methods, a collision of 2 very different epistemologies about how we should go about figuring out what to believe, what we know, what the truth is about the way the world is structured. One method, the new method that is being urged by Copernicus, Giordano Bruno, Galileo, and the other hypothesis is the way that we come to know things is by observation. We look at the world, we organize the data in various sorts of classification schemes, and then we go on to do that very sophisticated process of forming hypotheses, testing them, and using high-powered analytical methods that test the hypotheses against the observational data to see which ones best capture the observational data. The traditional epistemology that is being urged and used here said that we do not figure out important truths by that method. The method we use is appeal to revelation as recorded in Scripture, as interpreted by the authoritative body of specially trained church elders over the course of centuries. That's how we come to know the most important truths. When those 2 different epistemologies methodologically applied yield different results, then we have a collision and something has to give here. Now, 1610, when Galileo publishes his astronomical observations based on the use of his new telescope, he realizes that he's getting into some hot water. He agrees that he's going to back off from things. He does not want to run afoul of the Inquisition. The church also, in 1616, just a few years later, publishes an official codex condemning the Copernican hypothesis, making it a sin punishable by various severe penalties, to argue that the sun is not a satellite of the earth, right, so to speak. And so Galileo stays out of these theologically difficult waters for a while. Something occurs, though, shortly thereafter that causes Galileo to change his mind. One of those things is the election of Urban VIII as a pope. Urban VIII is someone whom Galileo knew. He was a more liberally educated scholastic, more humanistic in his orientation, and so Galileo thought now with this new reform-minded, more liberal-minded humanistic pope, it was now safe for him to come out publicly and advocate what he thought was in fact the true hypothesis about the structure of the solar system. So he goes to work on a manuscript which he publishes in 1623. He is rhetorically still playing it somewhat safe here. He catches it in the form of a dialogue where you have an advocate of the Copernican model and you have an advocate of the Ptolemaic model, or the sun-centered model, or the earth-centered model, and they go into an extended debate back and forth, argument, counter-argument about which of the models is better. But if you read carefully toward the end of the dialogue, you get the strong sense that the geocentric model is losing and it's the heliocentric model that is, in fact, the one that the author of the dialogue, Galileo, is in favor of. Galileo receives a very angry and almost immediate invitation to come down to Rome. It's actually a summons, get down here to Rome. We will have discussions, right, with the appropriate theological officers about this new work that you have authored. Galileo has shown the implements of torture that are used on those accused of various theological misdemeanors and crimes, and he is told in no uncertain terms, if he does not publicly recant his advocacy of the Copernican model, those implements will be used on him despite his high standing as a scientist, despite his now being in late middle age. There will not be any quarter shown. The stakes are too high. Galileo thinks it over, decides not to call their bluff. He goes public, recants his advocacy of the Copernican model. He is then confined for the rest of his life, which is about another 10 years or so, to house arrest, and not allowed by the church to publish anything until his death in 1642 or so. The point here is a collision in the early modern world over epistemology. How do we come best to know truth? And what we find is the church, as the exponent of the dominant mode of doing religion in the West at this time, is in what it thinks to be a life and death battle over epistemological supremacy with emerging science. And so this is a debate that has to be resolved intellectually, and it also has to be resolved politically. At this point, the church wants to be the intellectual authority, the epistemological authority on all important matters, and it also is in a position politically to exert the muscle necessary to back up that epistemological authority. Bruno is executed, Galileo is silenced, but nonetheless, the debate is joined, the battle is joined, and the early modern world is about to enter into a new era.